Hello there. I am Luna, and welcome to Stories for Sleepless Nights. Here, we share captivating tales from history, mythology, nature, biographies, philosophy, and so much more. Our goal is to help you relax and gently drift off to sleep. If you have a story idea you would like to hear, please share it in the comments. And remember to follow us on Spotify and YouTube so you never miss an episode. Tonight, we embark on a journey into the past, to the land of the rising sun. We will uncover the story of the samurais. These warriors are known the world over. They stand as symbols of strength, discipline, and a deep sense of honor. Their way of life, guided by a strict code, shaped Japan for centuries. Their legacy still echoes in the culture and spirit of Japan today. We will explore their beginnings, their battles, their art, and how their world eventually changed. Before we begin our story, let us take a moment to settle in. Find a comfortable spot, whether you are lying down or sitting. Take a slow, deep breath. Feel your chest rise as you breathe in and gently fall as you breathe out. Let us do that again. Breathe in slowly, filling your lungs. Then slowly let the air out, feeling your body relax. Now, gently close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Let any tension leave your body. Allow your muscles to soften. Just listen to the sound of my voice. Let it guide you. We are now ready to travel back in time. Our journey into the past begins long ago, in early Japan. Back then, Japan was not a single, unified country. It was a land divided, made up of many small regions, each ruled by powerful families called clans. These clans often fought with each other over land, resources, and power. There was no strong central government to keep the peace. The imperial court, located far away in the capital, held a grand title, but its real power was slowly fading. Because of this constant fighting, people needed protection. Local landowners, who owned large pieces of land, could not rely on the distant imperial court for safety. They needed to defend their fields, their homes, and their people. So, these landowners began to hire or train their own private guards. These skilled fighters were the first true warriors of Japan. They were known as the Bushi. These early Bushi were practical and tough. Their training focused on skills vital for battle. They learned to ride horses with great speed and control. They practiced shooting arrows with amazing accuracy, even while galloping. They mastered the art of fighting with swords and spears. Unlike later samurai, their loyalty was often to their local lord, the person who paid them and gave them land, rather than to the emperor or a larger national idea. They were protectors of their immediate area, ready to fight at a moment's notice to keep their lord safe and strong. As the imperial court's influence weakened, these warrior groups grew stronger and more important. They were not just guards, they were becoming the real power in the land. The need for their skills meant they gained more land, more wealth, and more control. They were the ones who could ensure order, even if it was a harsh order in a world full of conflict. This rise of the Bushi set the stage for a new era in Japan, an era where the sword, not the crown, would hold the most sway. The stage was set by the rising power of the Bushi, and soon a pivotal moment arrived that would change Japan forever. This moment came in the year 1185, with the victory of a powerful warrior named Minamoto no Yoritomo. He led his clan to triumph after a long and brutal conflict known as the Genpei War. His victory was not just over rival clans. It was a profound shift in how Japan was governed. Yoritomo did not become emperor. Instead, he established a new form of government. He took the title of shogun, which means supreme military commander. His government was called the shogunate, or bakufu, meaning tent government, a term that showed its military nature. Yoritomo set up his capital in Kamakura, a town far from the old imperial court in Kyoto. This move clearly showed that the real power in Japan now rested with the warriors, not the emperor or the old noble families. The samurai, as these warriors were increasingly called, became the true rulers of the land. The shogun stood at the very top of this new military government. During this Kamakura period, powerful samurai clans held great influence. The Minamoto clan, led by Yoritomo, was initially the most powerful. However, after Yoritomo's death, the Hojo clan, who were his wife's relatives, stepped in as regents. These Hojo regents held the real power, guiding and advising the shoguns who came after Yoritomo. They ensured that military rule continued to dominate Japan, keeping the samurai firmly in charge. The strength of this samurai government was tested in a dramatic way by two massive invasions from overseas. 1274 and again in 1281, Kublai Khan, the powerful Mongol emperor of China and Korea, sent huge fleets to conquer Japan. The first invasion saw about 900 ships carrying thousands of Mongol warriors land on Japan's shores. The samurai fought with incredible bravery, but they were outnumbered and faced new tactics and weapons from the invaders. Just as it seemed they might be overwhelmed, a great storm, a typhoon, swept through and destroyed much of the Mongol fleet. 7 years later, the Mongols returned with an even larger force, an armada of more than 4,000 ships. The samurai had prepared, building stone walls along the coast, some stretching for 12 miles, to stop the invaders from landing easily. For weeks, they fought fiercely, defending their homeland with every ounce of their strength. Once again, a massive typhoon struck. This divine wind, or kamikaze, as it was called, smashed the Mongol fleet to pieces, sinking thousands of ships and drowning most of the invaders. These Mongol invasions were terrifying events, but the samurai's heroic defense, coupled with the timely storms, filled them with a deep sense of pride and purpose. They had protected their country against a foreign enemy. These battles helped to forge a stronger sense of national unity among the warriors, reminding them that they were not just fighting for their local lords, but for Japan itself. Their role as the protectors of the nation was solidified, and their commitment to courage and loyalty deepened even further. The samurai's heroic defense against the Mongol invasions deeply solidified their identity. It showed their courage and strengthened their loyalty. From these powerful experiences, a formalized code of conduct began to truly take shape. This code became known as Bushido, which means the way of the warrior. It was not a written law at first, but a set of unwritten rules and ideals that guided the samurai's life. Bushido held several core principles that every samurai lived by. Loyalty, or chu, was perhaps the most important. A samurai pledged complete loyalty to his lord, his family, and his country. Honor, or meiyo, meant upholding one's reputation and dignity above all else. A samurai would rather die than live in shame. Courage, or yu, was essential, showing bravery in battle and in the face of any challenge. Integrity, or sei, meant being honest and trustworthy in all dealings. Compassion, or jin, was also a part of the code, encouraging kindness and mercy, especially towards those weaker than themselves. Finally, self-discipline, or jisai, was vital, demanding control over one's emotions and actions at all times. Two major philosophies deeply influenced Bushido: Zen Buddhism and Confucianism. Zen Buddhism taught the samurai about stoicism, which is the ability to endure hardship without showing feelings. It also emphasized self-control through meditation and detachment from worldly desires. Zen helped samurai face death without fear, understanding life's impermanence. Confucianism, on the other hand, reinforced ideas of loyalty to one's superiors, respect for elders, and the importance of duty and social order. These two philosophies together shaped the samurai's mind, making them both fierce warriors and thoughtful individuals. The training of a samurai began at a very young age and was incredibly rigorous. Boys started learning martial arts as soon as they could hold a wooden sword. They practiced kenjutsu, the art of swordsmanship, endlessly. They learned kyudo, the skill of archery, shooting arrows with great precision. Jujutsu, a form of unarmed combat, taught them how to fight even without their weapons. Beyond physical training, mental discipline was equally important. Samurai practiced meditation to calm their minds and develop focus. They endured harsh conditions, like long treks in the snow or standing under cold waterfalls, to strengthen their will and tolerance for pain. At the heart of every samurai was his katana, the long, curved sword. It was more than just a weapon. It was considered the soul of the samurai. Each katana was a masterpiece, carefully crafted over many weeks, sometimes months, by skilled swordsmiths. The samurai carried his katana everywhere, treating it with immense respect. It symbolized his status, his honor, and his commitment to the warrior's way. A samurai's skill with his katana was legendary, often allowing him to cut down multiple foes in a single swift motion. In extreme circumstances, when a samurai faced defeat, unbearable shame, or wished to demonstrate ultimate loyalty, there was a ritual known as seppuku, also called harakiri. This was a form of ritual suicide. It was not an act of despair, but an honorable way to die, choosing one's own end rather than falling into enemy hands or living with dishonor. A samurai would perform seppuku by plunging a short sword into his abdomen, demonstrating his courage and preserving his honor in the final moments of his life. An attendant, a trusted friend, would often stand ready to deliver a quick, clean decapitation to end the samurai's suffering swiftly. This solemn act was the ultimate expression of Bushido's core tenets. The principles of Bushido, which guided the samurai, were soon put to the ultimate test. Japan plunged into a period of intense chaos and constant warfare known as the Sengoku Jidai. This warring states period lasted from the mid-1400s to the early 1600s. It was a time when the central government, the Ashikaga shogunate, lost its power. Its control over the country weakened greatly. With no strong central authority, powerful regional lords, known as daimyos, began to rise across Japan. Each daimyo controlled a province or a group of provinces. They built their own castles and raised their own armies of samurai. These daimyos constantly fought each other for land, power, and influence. Alliances were made and broken quickly, and betrayal was common. Battles were fought almost daily, with armies sometimes numbering in the tens of thousands of men clashing on open fields. Three powerful figures emerged from this era of conflict. They are often called the three great unifiers of Japan. The first was Oda Nobunaga. He was a brilliant and often ruthless leader who was quick to adopt new military tactics. The second was Toyotomi Hideyoshi, a man of humble beginnings who rose through the ranks due to his sharp mind and strategic skill. The third was Tokugawa Ieyasu, a patient and calculating leader who learned from the actions of the other two. Each of these men played a crucial part in ending the long period of war. During this time, new technology dramatically changed how samurai fought. In the mid-1500s, Portuguese traders arrived in Japan. They brought with them matchlock firearms called arquebuses. These were long, heavy guns that fired lead balls. At first, many samurai were hesitant to use them, preferring their traditional swords and bows. But leaders like Oda Nobunaga quickly saw the power of these new weapons. Nobunaga began to equip his foot soldiers with large numbers of arquebuses. He trained them to fire in volleys, one row after another, creating a continuous hail of bullets. This tactic proved devastating against traditional samurai charges. For example, at the Battle of Nagashino in 1575, Nobunaga's forces, using thousands of arquebuses, crushed a charging samurai cavalry force. This battle showed everyone that firearms had permanently changed warfare in Japan. Samurai had to adapt, or they would be defeated. The Sengoku Jidai was a time of great destruction, but it also laid the groundwork for a new, unified Japan. The constant struggle for power forced the daimyos to become stronger, more organized, and more skilled in both warfare and governance. These turbulent years, filled with ambition, war, and innovation, slowly pushed Japan towards an era of peace and stability. The turbulent years of the Sengoku Jidai, with all their destruction and innovation, finally led to a decisive moment. In the year 1600, a massive battle took place at Sekigahara. This battle pitted the forces loyal to Tokugawa Ieyasu against a coalition of rival daimyos. It was one of the largest samurai battles in history, with around 160,000 warriors clashing on the field. The fighting was fierce and lasted for many hours, but through careful planning and strategic alliances, Tokugawa Ieyasu secured a complete victory. This triumph allowed Ieyasu to solidify his power. 3 years later, in 1603, he established the Tokugawa Shogunate. He took the title of shogun and set up his government in Edo, which is now modern-day Tokyo. This marked a profound shift for Japan. The long period of civil war ended, and over 250 years of unprecedented peace and stability began. The Tokugawa Shogunate enforced its rule with a strong hand, ensuring that no single daimyo could ever challenge the shogun's authority again. With peace established, the role of the samurai changed dramatically. They were no longer primarily battlefield warriors. Instead, they transformed into administrators, bureaucrats, and scholars. They managed the country, serving as government officials, judges, and police officers. They collected taxes, oversaw public works, and maintained order in the cities and towns. many samurai put down their swords and picked up pens. They still trained in martial arts to maintain their skills, but their daily lives were now focused on governance and civil duties. The Tokugawa Shogunate also established a very rigid social hierarchy. This system placed the samurai firmly at the very top. Below them were the farmers who produced food. Then came the artisans who made goods. At the bottom were the merchants who traded goods. Everyone knew their place, and it was very difficult to move from one class to another. This strict order influenced every aspect of a samurai's life, from their clothing to their income, and even who they could marry. They carried their two swords as a symbol of their status and authority, even when their primary job was no longer fighting. During this era of peace, the principles of Bushido became more formalized. Texts were written that outlined the ideal conduct for a samurai. Two famous examples are Hagakure and the Book of 5 Rings. Hagakure, written in the early 1700s, spoke about the importance of loyalty, self-sacrifice, and living as if one were already dead. The Book of 5 Rings, penned by the legendary swordsman Miyamoto Musashi in the mid-1600s, offered guidance not only on sword fighting, but also on strategy and discipline in life. These writings helped to shape the samurai's moral compass and ensured that their code of honor continued to guide them, even in a time without constant warfare. With the long period of civil war over, the samurai found themselves in a new kind of world. Their focus shifted from constant battle to maintaining peace and order. This change allowed them to develop a rich cultural life that went far beyond just fighting skills. During the Tokugawa period, samurai became patrons of the arts, and many participated in them directly. One important activity was the tea ceremony known as chado. This was not just about drinking tea. It was a ritual that emphasized peace, respect, purity, and tranquility. Samurai would gather in a quiet tea house, often small and simple, perhaps only about 9 feet by 9 feet. They would carefully prepare and serve tea following precise movements. Each gesture was slow and deliberate. Participating in the tea ceremony helped samurai to calm their minds, practice self-control, and appreciate beauty in everyday things. taught them patience and a deep sense of awareness. Another art form they embraced was flower arrangement, or ikebana. Just like the tea ceremony, ikebana was more than just putting flowers in a vase. It was a way to express harmony and balance through nature. Samurai learned to arrange flowers, branches, and leaves in specific ways, creating designs that held symbolic meaning. This practice helped them develop a keen eye for aesthetics and a respect for the natural world. It was a quiet, contemplative practice that balanced the intensity of their martial training. Calligraphy was also highly valued. Samurai spent many hours learning to write beautifully. They used brushes and ink to create elegant characters. Calligraphy was seen as a way to express one's spirit and character. Good handwriting was a sign of a disciplined mind. They also studied poetry and literature, often writing their own poems, especially haiku, which are short, 3-line poems. No theater was another art form that samurai supported and enjoyed. No plays often told stories of history, myths, or moral lessons. Actors wore elaborate masks and costumes and performed with slow, graceful movements. Watching these plays allowed samurai to reflect on life, honor, and duty. It was a sophisticated form of entertainment that often held deep philosophical meanings. Education and literacy became very important for samurai during this time of peace. They were expected to be well-read and knowledgeable, not just skilled with a sword. The ideal for a samurai was known as bunbu ryodo, which means the pen and sword in accord. This ideal meant that a true samurai should be equally skilled in both martial arts and scholarly pursuits. They studied history, philosophy, ethics, and classical Chinese and Japanese literature. Many samurai even opened private schools in their homes. These schools taught not only martial arts, but also reading, writing, and mathematics. This emphasis on learning helped them to become effective administrators and wise leaders, balancing their warrior spirit with intellectual wisdom. They understood that true strength came from a sharp mind as well as a strong body. For over 200 years, Japan enjoyed a time of peace under the Tokugawa Shogunate. The samurai had settled into roles as administrators and scholars, balancing the pen and the sword. But this long peace could not last forever. Changes from the outside world began to knock on Japan's doors. In 1853, a fleet of large ships, commanded by Commodore Matthew Perry of the United States, sailed into Edo Bay. These ships were unlike anything the Japanese had ever seen. They were powered by steam and made of dark metal, earning them the name Black Ships. They carried powerful cannons. Commodore Perry demanded that Japan open its ports for trade with the United States. Japan had been closed off to most of the world for more than 2 centuries, but the shogunate saw the great power of these foreign ships. They agreed to open some ports. This event caused a great shock across Japan. Many people felt the shogunate had shown weakness by giving in to the foreigners. This led to a growing unrest within the country. Groups of people began to speak out, believing that the shogun no longer had the right to rule. They wanted to restore power to the emperor, who they called the Son of Heaven. The emperor had been a symbolic figure for centuries, with little real power, but now many believed he should lead Japan again. They called for the removal of all foreigners and the return of imperial rule. This disagreement soon turned into a civil war known as the Boshin War. It lasted from 1868 to 1869. Forces loyal to the shogun fought against those who wanted to restore the emperor. The pro-imperial forces often had more modern weapons, some supplied by Western countries. Battles were fought across the land. The shogun's army, though made of brave samurai, could not stand against the new technologies and the rising tide of support for the emperor. In the end, the imperial forces won. The Tokugawa shogunate fell, and the emperor was restored as the true ruler of Japan. This pivotal moment was called the Meiji Restoration. With the emperor back in power, the new government quickly began to modernize Japan. They wanted Japan to be strong and equal to the Western nations. One of the biggest and most painful changes was the abolition of the samurai class. In 1876, the government removed all the special rights and privileges that samurai had held for hundreds of years. They no longer received their stipends, which were regular payments from the government. Most dramatically, the government issued a decree that banned anyone from carrying swords in public. For samurai, their sword was not just a weapon. It was a symbol of their honor, their identity, and their very soul. To take away their right to carry a sword was to take away a core part of who they were. The loss of their status and the ban on swords was a devastating blow for many samurai. Their entire way of life, built on generations of martial tradition and honor, simply vanished. Some samurai struggled greatly, unable to adapt to the new world. Others found new paths, becoming policemen, soldiers in the new national army, teachers, or businessmen. But for all of them, the change was immense. The end of the samurai class marked the close of a long and storied chapter in Japanese history, ushering in a completely new era for the entire nation. The end of the samurai class in the late 1800s closed a chapter, but it did not erase their story. The ideals and ethics that guided the samurai, especially the principles of Bushido, continued to shape Japan in subtle ways. Even as Japan modernized, values like discipline, loyalty, and a strong work ethic remained important. People continued to show respect for authority and tradition, echoing the strict social order the samurai once upheld. These ingrained ways of thinking and behaving became part of modern Japanese society. Beyond Japan, the samurai captured imaginations around the world. Their image quickly became romanticized in books, movies, and other forms of art. Legendary filmmakers like Akira Kurosawa brought samurai stories to the silver screen, showing brave warriors facing impossible odds. Movies like Seven Samurai became famous around the globe. In more recent times, samurai appear in popular anime and manga, where they are often shown as heroes with great skill and unwavering honor. These stories keep the samurai alive in the minds of millions. However, these popular portrayals sometimes differ from historical reality. People often imagine samurai as always noble, fighting with perfect honor in every battle. While honor was central, their history was also filled with political struggles, betrayals, and fears, often brutal warfare. The popular image tends to focus on the ideal, making them seem larger than life. Their image has been changed and reinterpreted over the years, often to fit new stories or ideas. Even today, the principles of Bushido find new life in modern contexts. The idea of dedication and striving for excellence, for example, can be seen in Japanese business ethics. The sports world often talks about sportsmanship and mental toughness, which have roots in samurai discipline. Many individuals still look to Bushido for guidance on personal conduct, seeking strength, integrity, and self-control. The global fascination with samurai culture continues to grow. These ancient warriors, who combined fierce martial skill with a deep appreciation for art and philosophy, still captivate us. They represent a unique blend of strength and grace, honor and discipline. Their story reminds us of the power of a strong moral code and how a way of life, even one from centuries ago, can leave a lasting mark on the world. As our journey through the story of the samurai comes to a close, let us take a moment to reflect. We have traveled from the early days of fragmented Japan, witnessing the rise of the Bushi, the dedicated warriors who would become the samurai. We saw them establish powerful shogunates, defend their land against invaders, and forge the strict code of Bushido. We watched as they navigated periods of intense warfare and centuries of profound peace, transforming from fierce fighters to cultured administrators, shaping Japan's very soul. Then we observed their eventual decline, not as a defeat, but as a transformation, giving way to a new era for their nation. Yet, their spirit, their discipline, and their ideals continue to echo through time, captivating imaginations across the globe. Now, as the echoes of their story fade into the quiet of the night, I invite you to take a few more deep breaths with me. Feel your chest rise and fall gently, slowly. Allow any remaining thoughts or worries to drift away like clouds in the night sky. Gently close your eyes, if you haven't already, and let your body sink into a state of deep calm. Feel the peaceful stillness all around you. Thank you for joining me, Luna, on Stories for Sleepless Nights. It has been an honor to share the captivating tale of the samurai with you. May your dreams be peaceful and your sleep be sound. Remember to share your own story ideas in the comments below. And do not forget to follow us on Spotify and YouTube to ensure you never miss an episode. Until next time.